I want to thank President Engel for inviting me to address the Southeastern University graduating class of 2020. We might as well say it. Get it out there. Just declare the facts. Let's be clear and upfront. This isn't the graduation you wanted. Not a single one of you envisioned this type of ceremony. You were planning on parties, on people, and a production. Family would applaud. Teachers would give you a hug. An important person would call your name and you would walk, yes, walk across the stage. Diploma, pictures, the flipping of the tassel, and the celebration with your friends. Yeah, that's what you wanted. But this is what you received. I know someone who understands. He was about your age when his plans were disrupted, not by COVID, but by brothers. 10 brothers who chose to sell him into slavery. They were as greedy as they were jealous. And so the story of Joseph in the Old Testament begins with Joseph in a pit, a deep, dark pit. So steep the boy could not climb out. Had he been able to, his brothers would have just shoved him back down. They were the ones who threw him in. I'm looking at this passage from the book of Genesis. And so it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped him of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. And they took him and they cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And then they sat down to eat a meal. Now, Joseph didn't see this assault coming. He didn't climb out of bed that morning and think, well, I guess I better dress in padded clothing because this is the day I get tossed in a hole. No, the attack caught him off guard. So did yours. So, life, it comes with challenges, and sometimes these challenges lead to the pit, and these pits have no easy exit. Joseph's story got worse before it got better. Abandonment led to enslavement, to entrapment, to imprisonment. He was sucker punched. He was sold out. He was mistreated. People made promises only to break them. They offered gifts only to take them. If hurt is a swampland, then Joseph was sentenced to a life of hard labor in the Everglades. Yet, here's the deal about Joseph. He never gave up. Never. Bitterness never staked its claim. Anger never metastasized into hatred. His heart never hardened. His resolve never vanished. In fact, he not only survived, he thrived. He ascended like a helium balloon. An Egyptian official promoted him to chief servant. The prison warden placed Joseph over the entire prison. And Pharaoh, the highest ruler on the planet, shoulder-tapped Joseph to serve as his prime minister. By the end of his life, Joseph was the second most powerful man of his generation. And it's not hyperbole to state that he saved the world not from a pandemic, but from starvation. How? Now, how did he do this? How did he flourish in the midst of tragedy? Well, we don't have to speculate. Some years later, the roles were reversed. Joseph was the strong one, and his brothers the weak ones. They came to him in dread. They feared that he would settle the score and throw them into a pit of his making. But he didn't. And in his explanation, we find his inspiration. It's in Genesis chapter 50 and verse 20. He told them, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive." Look what Joseph did. He kept God right in the center of his story. You meant evil against me, but God intended it for good. Joseph kept God right there in the middle of his life. And as a result, what began in a pit ended up in a palace. Now, in the chaos I call Joseph's life, I count one broken promise, at least 2 betrayals, several bursts of hatred, 2 abductions, more than 1 seduction, 10 jealous brothers, and 1 case of poor parenting. There was abuse, unjust imprisonment, 24 months of prison food, yet mix it all together and let it sit for a few years, and what do you get? Well, you get the greatest bounce back in the Bible. Beersheba's forgotten boy became the second most powerful man in the world's most powerful country. Now, the path to the palace wasn't quick, and it wasn't painless. But wouldn't you say that God took this mess and made it into something good? And wouldn't you think He can do the same with yours? I ask you, is the God of Joseph still in control? Well, yes. Can He do for you what He did for Joseph? Absolutely. And might the challenges of life actually help you become the person God intends you to be? Certainly. Someday, perhaps in this life, certainly in the next, you'll tally up all the missteps and mistakes and curiosities of this life, and you'll write this sum: it was all good. In a real sense, you're a version of Joseph in your generation. Now, he would be the first to tell you, life in the pit stinks. Yet for all of its rottenness, doesn't the pit do this much? It forces us to look upward. Someone from up there must come down here and give us a hand. And God did for Joseph. And throughout your life, my friend, at the right time in the right way, He will do the same for you. So God bless you. Congratulations on this new chapter of life. Let the journey begin.